Hey guys, my name is Liam. This is Gone Jeepin', and we have a really cool Jeep to talk about. But first, we're going to talk to Tim, the guy who built it, and let's just kind of walk around this thing and see what it's all about. What are we even looking at? What is this?
We're looking at a 1950. It's an M38. So 1950 was the first year of the M38s. This happens to be serial number 13. And my understanding is that either the first 10 of them or the first 12 of them were done for R&D and never went anywhere. And then after that, they started going out. And this one got stationed at Camp Ripley. So it got shipped from the Willis factory right up to Camp Ripley, spent its whole life there, and that's where it got rescued out of.
So you're saying this is kind of number one or two?
Yeah, as far as the ones that are in civilian hands, yeah. So because it's like it says, serial number 13. So
yeah. Okay, I'm going to hand you the microphone. Just talk about your Jeep. I want to hear all about this thing.
Okay, well, like I said, we rescued it. A fellow that I know ended up with the Jeep, and I ended up making a deal on it and brought it home here. Didn't know what we were going to do with it. Some friends talked me into start restoring the thing. Initially, it was just going to be make it run, and pretty soon we had it down to a bare frame and decided that, well, it's worthwhile to save this thing as well as we can. So we took it down to bare frame. We chiseled all the rivets off the frame, took everything apart, sandblasted, painted, and, did complete restoration on everything, hot riveted the frame stuff all back together. And so those rivets there, that bumper would stay on the Jeep otherwise, unless you cut all those rivets off and take it apart and then hot rivet it all back together. So, and there's a number of those throughout the whole frame. All of the frame mounts themselves. Yeah, you can look down here, and the actual frame mounts that are on here. So these rivets that are way down in the bottom right here, those are the hot rivets that you end up putting in there. It's one of those things when you do things, it's hard to not do it the way it was, as close as you can. And we're not perfectionists by any means, but we're the caretakers of this stuff now until the next generation gets a hold of it. So let's make it as correct as we can anyway. So, and then we started the rebuild. We actually got the chassis done and put together and running. I don't have the 24-volt system hooked up yet on it. That's what we're working on right now. So we're kind of still in the process of the restoration. So we went ahead and went through the motor, the transmission, rear ends, front ends, everything, tore everything all down. There was nothing that wasn't taken apart and put back together. Hard part to find was a carburetor. That's kind of hen's teeth on these things because they're different than the CJs. So they have a 90-degree top on the elbow, where the CJ has a 90-degree cap that goes onto it. Right. And they run fine with the CJ carburetor on it. It just doesn't look right. So yeah. So we got this all together. So I got the running gear all together on it. We strapped an orange crate on it and a gas can on the thing, and I drove it to a car show that way and took the first place trophy because the people were, of course, they had the 50 caliber sitting on it, and drove it to the car show just as a frame. Little kids were walking up there going, "How'd they get that here? What is that?" And we had just the grill shell sitting on it, so you could tell it was a Jeep. So that was cool. And then we went back and then started on the body. Took a bunch of fenders, took them apart. Tried to buy as little bit of aftermarket sheet metal as I could. Drilled fenders apart, spot welds apart. Got the best fenders, put things back together, welded things back together.
Because you were telling me that the fender is what, 3 pieces? Yeah,
so the fenders, you got the top piece of the fender, and you have the back of the skirt of the fender, and you have the inner fender. And so those, and it's actually 4 pieces. There's a 4th piece in the corner there. So if you drill all those spot welds apart, you have those 4 pieces. So my first part of the restoration of that was to clamp them all together and weld them back together, and I went to bolt them on, they didn't fit. So I realized that we drilled all the spot welds apart again on it, took it all back apart again, bolted it all on, and then spot welded it once it was fit to the body that we were putting on, because everything being just a little bit different on that. So
this is where we look at the camera and we say, this is a tech tip for you guys.
Yeah.
Put it on the body, clamp it all down first, and then weld it together.
Weld it together after the fact.
It's a good tip.
Yep. So that's the things you learn. So I wanted to do this. My dad was in the service during the Korean War era. He didn't serve overseas, but he was in the service at that time, and so was my father-in-law. So I went ahead and put my dad's military numbers on this side. So this is my dad's service number, and it was kind of unique. It was the first time that my dad saw that. That was pretty neat. The number that we have on the other side is my father-in-law's service number, and my wife didn't realize I was putting that on there until it was painted on there, and then she heard me telling somebody else that. So that was my father-in-law's service number. We were looking for the information. A lot of military records got lost. There was a fire in the records department. A lot of records got lost. And my son is a captain in the National Guard, and he's tried to find records and find out where his grandpa had served, what kind of things. And before we took my father in the parade, we got my father-in-law's Korean War trench coat jacket. And so it, smelled a little musty, so we put it in the dryer to fluff it up a little bit, some dryer sheets, and turned it on to blow a little warm air through it, and when I went to pull it out of the dryer, a plastic bag had fallen out of the pocket in it, and lo and behold, it was all of the military records that were there. So we found out where he was stationed, and when he shipped out, when he signed up, and all that kind of stuff. So we had it for all that time, and we'd been looking for it. So it's kind of like Dorothy. She could always went home. She just didn't know how to. And then the Georgia Girl on the windshield. Back in the old CB radio days, that was my mother's CB radio handle that my dad kind of nicknamed my mom. So when they walked out of the house the first time on Memorial Day to see it, we were taking my dad in the Memorial Day parade, and they walked out of the house. My dad saw his military number, and Mom saw the Georgia Girl on it, and they just got all excited about that. Thought that was pretty neat. We drove downtown to to where the fire hall is, where they're doing the parade at, and parked it there. My dad was sitting in the Jeep waiting and stuff. And then my son, who was a captain in the service at that time, comes walking up and says, "Well, hello, Grandpa. I'm here to be your chauffeur and drive you in the parade." So then my son ends up driving, his grandpa in the Memorial Day parade. So that was pretty neat. One day we were driving around, and we were driving uptown to go get something to eat. And we stopped at a place to eat, and we ended up visiting with a couple that was there. And they had stopped at this place to eat, and she wanted me to tell her about the Jeep, and I got learning about her and her family. And her dad was in a motor pool in the service, and her dad had saved a trailer, and so we ended up making a deal on a trailer, and it's actually a civilian Bantam trailer. We painted it green, just put behind the Jeep for now, but it's a civilian Bantam trailer. Difference being that they have a tailgate on them, and they got stake pockets inside, so they're a little bit different than the military trailers are. They're physically the same size. All the panels are the same and stuff, but on that. So then on that, then we took and got this from her, and she actually gave it to us. I had made her an offer on it, and she said, "No," she said, "with your because we're driving this Jeep around town, picking vets up, taking them out for lunch and ice cream and stuff," and so that's what we intended to do with it. So then she gave us that. So then they put her dad's military numbers on the back of the trailer. So that's kind of a rolling memorial as it goes on that. And growing up as a kid, as a Rat Patrol kid, you got to have a 50 caliber on there. So I had a customer that had this hanging on his hanger wall, and it's a replica 50 is what it is, but the mount is all original mount and original trunnion and everything. Went ahead and made a deal on that and got that put on there right away. We had another opportunity to go to a gun show and came up with a 30 carbine that I have up on the windshield there, and that 30 carbine is correctly dated for this Jeep. I didn't want too new of a carbine like a repop carbine. So yeah, there's been just all kinds of neat little things on this as it's gone along. And my body was pretty rusty. We actually found a body out in the state of Washington, and we went out to Washington. I had a cousin out there, and so we went out there and visited my cousin and picked up a Jeep body. And I know when she looked at what I picked up, she had doubts, and she was like, "Really, you came out here for that?" Yeah. Wow. So they don't have the vision; they can't see it, So yeah, that's kind of, and so yeah, it's been, and it was. We just rolled it in the hangar, and it was sat in the corner and worked on it, and tried to work on it every day a little bit, just do a little bit, clean some bolts up, do something with it, paint some pieces, whatever. Got to know John Bizzell down at Midwest Military. If you guys have never gone down there, you got to go down and see John, because they've got everything that you need and the knowledge, and it's just amazing. He was an excellent resource as far as for putting the Jeep stuff together. So one day while I was building this M38, John Bizzell from Midwest Military called me up and says, "I got something for you." And I said, well, I asked him what it was. He said, "Well, I'm not going to tell you what it is. You come down here and give me $100 and I'll show it to you." So I got down there, and he says, "Well, here's I got something." He said, "Let me see your $100. And I'm, "What am I going to get?" And he says, "You want it." And so I laid out $100 for him, and he brought out this dash plaque in the original manila envelope, dated 1953, in the military envelope, all old, smelling. You could smell the oldness to the paper. It's just great. When we sliced it open as a brand new dash plaque for my Jeep, so I was like, yeah, that was well worth $100 to me.
There's something about this shovel that's unique.
Yeah, the shovels for the M38s are different than the World War II shovels. Okay. So the MBs, the shovels, first of all, went on the other side on the MBs and the M38s, and that's kind of a dead giveaway that you got an M38 is that the tools are on this side, Pioneer Tools. So the Pioneer Tools, if you go, the shovels are almost impossible to come up with the right angle and stuff on them. But if you go and get a regular farm shovel someplace on that, and you pie cut the shape opening here and rebend the angle, because otherwise the handle doesn't sit tight against the and so we remade it and bent the handle so it sits properly along that, welded in the pie shaped pieces, ground it, and painted it. So that was our homemade shovel to make it get us an M38 shovel. So
it's always something, right?
Yep. There's always something to do. Yep. And that's the story of the Jeep. We've driven it in a number of parades now. We continue to drive it in parades. We continue to try to give vets in town rides in it, and take them out for a coffee or something, and lunch or whatever. Anytime I have the opportunity, I run across a vet that I can say, hey, you want to go ride in a Jeep someplace?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of it's been a lot of fun. It's a unique vehicle. Kind of, you drive it wherever you want to go, nobody stops you. so that's the cool thing, right? That's a cool thing. So anyway, so that's what I can tell you about it. I suppose we should probably take it out and drive it, huh?
That was what I was going to say next. I think next we just got to get her running.
Okay.
I'm going to take the gunner seat way back here, and we got Yulia here. She's going to be our chauffeur today, and Tim's going to teach her how to drive this M38.
So again, if you're going to stop, you have to push the clutch in, and it is a 3-speed transmission.
Okay.
A little bit of gas.
Keep my foot on the clutch?
Yes, because you're going to put it in gear, so you're going to pull it again over towards you and down. Yep, so towards you and down. All right, and it's going to be in gear. Yep. We're in high, and give it a little bit of gas and start letting the clutch out. And it doesn't take much gas, but a little more gas, and there you go.
We're going.
All right, we're moving. So we're going to go across here.
Right.
We're going to go that way. I see no airplanes coming, so we're going to cross over here. I'm going to go that way down the runway just a little bit, and then you'll see a little road there.
This one out there?
That little road right there. And then button all the way in. Yep, let's let go.
Oh my gosh!
All right, guys. Well, you heard it as I heard it. We're here by your hangar. We got airplanes. Yeah, we got airplanes. We got a Jeep. We drove it. That was awesome. And this is an M38. What year?
1950.
1950 M38. Our friend Tim. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.
Real pleasure.
Yep, thanks for stopping out.
Yeah, guys. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And we'll see you in the next one.